O-Dog boxing, motherfucker. All right, so let's get right into it with some more of this boxing talk, some more of these boxing takes, or whatever you want to call it. So, WBO world champion at the junior welterweight division, Teofimo Lopez, is set to take on former IBF world champion Subriel Matias March 15th. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm looking forward to this fight. I've been wanting to see these two fight for quite a while now. Preferably, I would have wanted to see these two fight when Subriel Matias was still IBF world champion, when he still had a strap. But what are you going to do, right? I'll still take this fight, even if I do think it's a little late. But you know what they say, late is better than never. And shout out to Teofimo Lopez for being out here actively looking for the smoke. He's been trying to get the best names he possibly could into that ring with him, to the best of his abilities. And I know that top-ranked Bob Arum and Teofimo Lopez were in talks with Eddie Hearn and Matchroom for a potential Jaron Ennis matchup at 147 pounds. But Boots respectfully declined, and he turned down that offer. And his excuse for not taking that fight was that Ennis is only looking to unify at the welterweight division, and that Boots was not interested in making a fight with a smaller Teofimo Lopez that was moving up in weight, because that Lopez fight would not be for a unification. Now, let me just say this about the Boots Ennis camp turning down the Lopez fight, because I know that many fight fans and content creators alike are considering this a duck by Jaron Ennis. Me personally, I don't consider this a duck by Jaron Ennis, simply because I don't think that Ennis is afraid of Teofimo Lopez. And technically, since Teofimo Lopez is not in the same weight division as Boots, this technically cannot be a duck. Lopez is not a mandatory for Boots, and again, he's not even in the same weight division. Although I can say this, I think that Teofimo Lopez is the more interesting and the more lucrative fight than any other fights there is to make at the welterweight division for Jaron Ennis. I mean, nobody's really checking for a Montes Stanionis or a Brian Norman Jr. Not only that, but we've seen Jaron Boots Ennis and Eddie Hearn try and make these unification fights with the other champions in the welterweight division, and they've all turned down the smoke from Boots Ennis. Mario Barrios don't want nothing to do with Boots, neither does Montes Stanionis. And Brian Norman Jr. turned down $1 million to fight Boots Ennis. He'd rather fight Brian Norman Jr. rather fight Derek Cuevas for $100,000 rather than fight Boots for $1 million. And then Mario Barrios is in talks with Conor Benn in a potential fight with Manny Pacquiao. And then Montes Stanionis would rather fight as mandatory. So what's Boots going to do in the meantime, in between time? You know, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? He's going to fight Karen for the third time? Come on, man. What are we even talking about here? If I was Boots, I would fight. I would have took the fight with Lopez, but, you know, it is what it is. So then Teofimo Lopez and Bob Arum then turn their sights on over to Devin Haney and make him an offer. And Devin Haney also turns down an offer from Teofimo Lopez. And his excuse for not fighting Teofimo Lopez was the classic old, tired-ass, generic-ass excuses like Teofimo Lopez doesn't sell anything, we won't sell anything, we won't even hit the 100K pay-per-view threshold for back-end money, etc., etc. And just FYI, right, a side note for you guys, this is the fourth or fifth fight that Devin Haney has declined, that Devin Haney has turned down this year, that he has ducked. Honestly, I think Devin Haney is better off just keeping it real with himself and telling everybody the truth. And that truth is Devin Haney's jaw is broken, which is why he keeps turning down all the smoke. I'm telling y'all, that's what it is. Ryan Garcia broke Devin Haney's jaw earlier this year. I'm telling you. And so that's how we ended up here. The Teofimo Lopez taking on Subriel Matias, which I'm not mad at. I'm not mad at all. I like this matchup. Only thing I don't like about this fight is that it's going to be on pay-per-view. And see, that's a problem for me because in Subriel Matias' last fight, he was the defending champion. He took on Liam Paro, and that fight was not on pay-per-view. Now, after he loses his belt, all of a sudden now I have to pay to watch Subriel Matias? Now that he doesn't have a belt, now that he's not champion? Come on, man, this is nasty work. And it's like, why do I have to pay for this fight? Because Teofimo Lopez, his last fight wasn't on pay-per-view either. It was just part of your basic, regular ESPN Top Rank subscription. Come on, man. What are we even talking about here? But it is what it is, and it was what it was. Because, if you're asking yourself, well, not boxing, are you paying for this fight? Yeah, I'm paying for it. I'm buying this fight. So, there's no point in complaining if you're going to buy it anyways. But how do I see this fight playing out? Or who do I see winning this fight? Who do I got? I think that I'd have to go and I'd have to pick Teofimo Lopez. I think that Lopez wins this matchup. Subriel Matias is a very limited fighter. His only objective is to get in your face and smother you with pressure. And I think that Lopez's style is all bad for Matias because Lopez is a counter puncher. There's a good chance of Lopez catching Matias on his way in. But at the same time, Lopez fought a pressure fighter in Steve Claggett in his last fight, and he looked bang average versus Claggett. So, if you couldn't keep a Canadian club fighter off of you, how do you expect to keep Matias off of you, who is a much higher grade of pressure fighter than a Steve Claggett? Also, since moving up to the 140-pound division, Teofimo Lopez has not looked dominant like he once did at the 135 division. It's almost like his power didn't transfer on over to the 140-pound division. I mean, sure, he looked good against Josh Taylor, but that Josh Taylor that Teofimo Lopez fought, he'd already been cooked by Jack Catterall. I think he was weight drained. He outgrew the weight, Josh Taylor that is. I think he's just been at 140 for way too long. And then Teofimo Lopez, before fighting Josh Taylor, he had gotten a give decision win over Sandor Martin, because let's keep it real, Sandor Martin won that fight. So what I'm saying here is, Teofimo Lopez's power hasn't transferred well into the 140-pound division, and I don't know if his power will be enough to keep a pressure fighter like Subriel Matias off of him, because again, it wasn't enough to keep a Steve Claggett off of him. But we're just going to have to wait and see what happens next. This is a very good matchup. I believe that this is a 50-50 fight. This will be Teofimo Lopez's first fight, fighting under Eddie Reynoso. I honestly don't think this is a good fit for Teofimo Lopez because Lopez don't speak no Spanish and Eddie Reynoso don't speak English. Maybe they have Teo Sr. in the corner working as a translator. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens next. But this is all I got for this one. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section. And you already know. Once again, this has been your boy O-Dog Boxing, and I'm out. This is